This is the way author, fly tyer, and blogger Matt Grobert likes to tie a blue-winged olive. The pattern is fairly easy to tie and is designed to ride low in the surface film. Matt begins with a size 18 Dai-Riki number 305 dry fly hook, but depending on circumstances, you may want anything from about a 16 down to a 24. Matt mashes the barb on the hook before securing it in his vise. For thread, he loads a bobbin with a spool of 6/0 olive Danville. Start your thread on the hook shank and take wraps rearward before breaking or snipping off the tag. 2 natural colored CDC feathers are used to form the wing of the fly. Align the tips of the feathers and then collect the tip fibers. Measure them to form a wing a hook shank in length, and then with a pinch wrap, tie them in just forward of the halfway point on the hook shank. Lift up the butts and snip them off at an angle. Then, take a few wraps of tying thread to cover the butts and lift the wing up to check its position and length. If all looks good, pull just the smallest amount of dubbing from the packet, here olive Superfine. This is used to form a small ball right at the hook bend in order to split the fly's tails. With the ball in place, wrap your thread forward just a bit. Select a dozen or so stiff hackle fibers, and while keeping the tips aligned, strip them from the stem. Measure to form a 1.5 to 2 hook lengths long tail, and then snip off the excess curly butts so they don't get in the way. Secure the fibers to the top of the hook shank and begin taking wraps rearward. Pull equal amounts of fibers to either side of the dubbing ball to create a split tail. If you have extra or errant fibers, simply snip them off close. The finished tails should be set at about a 90-degree angle, like this. Microfibetts can be used instead of hackle fibers if you like. Pull the wing back and take a wrap or two in front to prop it up, and then take a posting wrap or two to hold it up even further. With the wing oriented correctly, take wraps rearward to smooth out the underbody of the fly. Use the same dubbing you used before, but this time create a dubbing noodle on your tying thread long enough to form the abdomen of the fly. Although the dubbing should stop immediately behind the wing, advance your tying thread to immediately in front of it. Select an appropriately sized hackle and pull it free from the neck. Break off the lower webby part of the feather and then strip off about 1/8 of an inch of fibers. With the dull or backside of the feather facing the fly, place the stem underneath and perpendicular to the hook shank, then wrap your thread over the hook but behind the feather stem on the far side. Then make a cross wrap to lock the stem in the perpendicular position. Bring your thread underneath the hook and behind the stem before capturing the butt with wraps on the far side of the hook. This tie-in technique is much easier to do than it is to explain, and it's very effective. Once again, reach for the green dubbing and pull out just a small amount. Dub a short thin noodle onto your tying thread and then begin taking wraps behind the hackle feather to form the thorax of the fly. Wraps behind and in front of the wing will help support it. End with your tying thread in front of the hackle and immediately behind the hook eye. Get hold of the hackle with hackle pliers and begin taking wraps rearward. Take a single hackle wrap behind the wing to support it, and then wraps forward before tying the feather off behind the eye. Raise the hackle tip and snip it off close. Do a 4 or 5 turn whip finish, being careful not to trap hackle fibers as you go. Snip or cut your tying thread free. Finally, cut the lower hackle fibers off so the fly rides low to the water. This pattern works well on even the most selective of fish.